Welcome to the Purple Patch Sales Edge podcast with me, Danielle.
And me, Lucy Lee. And today we are going to be discussing all things AE and BDR. So specifically BDR to AE pathways and how to succeed successfully in progressing your career. Morning.
Good morning, Lucy Lee. How the devil are you?
I feel like it's been a while.
It has been a while, actually. Yeah, it has been a while. Yeah, we've both had a lot going on, haven't we? Yeah, but we're here. We are here, ready to chat.
What have we missed? We need to update. What's been going on in your life?
In my life, we are moving to a new apartment. We've just got we're trying a different location. So we're going to be moving into Lisbon City, baby, for a few months, which will be great, particularly over Christmas. You know, I think cities are great places to be during winter, like proper winter, not Australian, summer winter. So we're going to, we're doing that on Sunday. So that'll be fun.
Got to get my room ready for the new year.
Yes, exactly, because you will be coming and we'll be able to do maybe one or two episodes in person.
We have to do it in the studio. Yes.
In person. We'll do it in person. So that'll be nice.
That'll be great fun.
Yeah, so that's us really. Been busy, actually. Been very, very busy. It's been good. How about you?
That's great. I feel like I look at it as well. Just come off the first end of quarter in a sales quota carrying role in the first time in, when did I start going on? 3 years ago? 2.5, 3? Yeah, it's got to be 3 years. It's good. And then you woke up today and it's just like big fat donut.
Clean slate. Goodbye last quarter. Hello new quarter.
Yeah.
And you will be coming into Q4.
The season of closing and I keep being told the season we've trained people to buy in. That's all I keep being like.
100%. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna do some really good stuff. I'm off to the UK in December, so I can't wait to finish it up strong, get home, see you guys, see my friends and family. They've all had some babies and just get into, as you say, the proper Christmas spirit. I love the Aussie Christmas, but put on a few kilos, have some sausage, some blanket, and
nice and cold. Get all wrapped up. Go to the local pub on Christmas Day.
Yeah, exactly.
Overindulge. Play stupid games.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it too. We're heading back to the UK. We're going to be in Suffolk.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's going to be good. And my mum retired this year, so this will be the first year in something like 28 years that she hasn't had to get up and work Boxing Day.
Tell our audience who your mum works for, because the English audience will totally appreciate the Boxing Day rush here.
Yeah, so my mum has worked for the high street retailer Next for nearly 30 years. My goodness, do you know what they gave her? In fact, do you know what they gave her for her retirement present? Bearing in mind she has worked there, I'm sure it's 28 years. It could even be 30. Guess what they gave her, Lucy?
Hope an endless supply of Next Home, but I don't think it was.
It wasn't, and it certainly wasn't a Rolex. It was a £250 voucher. Boy, it gets better, that you can only spend at Next.
No.
Yeah, we'll give you that money, but we'll keep it in our ecosystem.
That's
shocking.
Outrageous.
If anybody here works for Next or has anybody senior in Next, please pass on this feedback that is not okay for somebody who has dedicated a huge part of their life to working for you and being an incredible employee, I might add. But anyway, we digress. So it's great to see you, LL. You're looking well. And congrats on smashing that quarter as well. And all good. All right. So what are we here to talk about today? Lovely Lucy Lee.
Very relevant. We're going to be talking about BDR to AE pathways and otherwise. So succeeding in your roles beyond those entry levels that you can.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a great, great topic. And why is it a great topic and why is it something that you and I are very passionate about? It's because, we've worked on a lot of these types of pathways and growth programs for talent nurturing, shall we say, within organizations, depending obviously on the size of the organization, the complexity. The size of that entry level sales kind of role within an organization could be super big, could be medium, could be completely teeny tiny. You might be one or two people. Then you can really do what you want. But it's so important. It's so important because, this is the future talent of the organization. They are like BDRs, SDRs. Well, mind you, there's many different names as well. So XDRs. Do you still have there's BDAs as well?
No, they got rid of that. But they don't have that anymore. There's a few of them left though who are now AEs, and I have no idea of the facts, but I bet they are some of the most successful AEs because of their understanding of the solution, right?
100%.
Yeah, it's the same in a really good big org, I think, has that program in place for that exact reason. But there is, as you say, we've done a few of these now, and I'm now on the other side where I'm like, how do I get them to be AEs? And actually, it's like I almost feel that there's a barrier between me and executing on what I know it needs to happen, because it's like they've still got a job to do. So it's like you have to actually put your enablement hat back on and go, how do you get them into role?
Okay. So Lucy, why don't you share some stats with us? Because you did a little bit of research on this around tenure and some of the impacts of tenure from BDRs progressing into an AE role.
Yeah, it's super interesting when I started doing a bit of digging on this. So a lot of the times, especially when I was in that kind of role, it was almost a sort of 12-month trajectory. And then you would make it into one of those kind of AE, SMB AE roles and those entry levels into that part of the world. But over the years, especially since COVID, that's kind of blown out into the 18, 24, even in some cases, 36 months. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, well, a lot of people just actually want to run before they can walk. And I did a bit of digging to kind of back up why actually slowing down might speed you up in the long term. So the stats actually stand that if you get promoted at that under 12-month mark, 10 to 12 months, you stand a 55% chance of actually failing within that role against someone who's been in the role as a BDR, SDR for 16 plus months with only a 6% failure rate. So
that's massive.
Huge.
That's massive. That really is massive. That's huge.
It's quite shocking.
Well, it is and it isn't though, right? Because in 11 months, you've probably never done sales before, right? You've probably never done sales before. And to think that you could do a full sales cycle after just 11 months of demonstrating that you can pick up a phone, build pipeline, build rapport with people and book a meeting is very, very different to a full sales cycle. Very different. And yes, we understand the exhaustion of the role, right? Thinking about doing that role for another 18 months, 24 months plus could feel daunting. But actually, it's once you pass that 11 months that really you should be preparing for that next role and ensuring that you're ready for it. Because I would rather move into an AE role and be uber successful and not kind of take that hit of, oh, I'm not very good at this. Oh gosh, what am I going to do with my life now?
I also like to back onto that. I genuinely think that I don't say this in a personal aspect at all, but I think as a whole, from what we've witnessed, there is a lot more mollycoddling and like hand holding from leaders at that level, because rightly so, they're super new. It's a new industry. They get a lot more. And the reality is, like, the sad reality and the right reality is, as soon as you hit that AE role and you've got managers on top of you, they ain't gonna hold your hand. Like, you're going into that role, especially from a BDR, SDR, usually without a ramp period. So you might get a month respite maybe, and you are straight into hitting that quota. And you can't have your manager sitting down with you 5 times a day explaining that to you what they need of you. It's expected that when you sit in that role, you understand what you're doing. So actually, as you say, an extra 6, 12, 18 months to learn to drive the car properly is probably not a bad thing.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. So let's talk about, you touched on it there, really and if you are somebody who is either just starting as an SDR or a BDR, or you're looking at entering in through that pathway into sales, I would highly recommend, and I'm sure you're going to agree with me here, but get an understanding of what the training program is, right? And what support is going to be given to you as a new person entering the organization and entering into this particular role. Last year, we worked with a client, we won't name names, who had just stood up a BDR function and, recruited, I think it was about 8 or 10 BDRs all at once. They didn't have set up, they didn't have the processes set up within the CRM. They didn't have any governance set up around what the BDRs should be doing and how they should be doing them. They hadn't done any work on sequences, and even better was they didn't even have the commission structure fully laid out. And and it was really hard. And when you're hungry and you want to get in and you want to start earning money, they were hindered by that because actually the commission structure wasn't in there, and the systems and the processes and what they were supposed to be doing and how they should be doing things weren't there either. So there was automatically, they were not being set up for success. So my first piece of advice to anybody, if you have just moved into or are considering moving into, ask what the enablement program is, ask for all the information about the commission structure, ask how you are going to be supported, and supported to be successful in this role would be my first piece of advice for anybody considering that, because there are an abundance of BDR, SDR roles. And I'm not going to lie, some companies are going to set you up for success better than others. So it's just something to consider. Any comments on that?
No, I think it's really valid. And even in businesses that have a lot of enablement, I still hear it, and you still hear it of more enablement. It's like, yeah, but you've got enablement. Like you're lucky to even have it. And especially if it's going to set you up for these roles. I remember whenever we used to set up sessions, it was like, probably half of you in this room are going to know exactly what we're going to talk about over the next half an hour. And there's going to be another half who have absolutely no idea. And the idea is that the guys that do know help the guys that don't know, and you walk away with one new thing after 60 minutes. And if we take that, that's a win.
Yeah.
And so many people just go into these things with the wrong mindset. And I remember that cohort that we worked with. And after the first sessions, they said to me, I've been in this job for 6 months, and it was just so nice to have a refresher on mindset. And you were like, and it's like, sometimes that's all it takes for that cohort specifically as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And for the AEs that might be listening on this call, this isn't just about BDRs. We're certainly going to get onto some AE stuff, because we as account executives also have a responsibility to help our BDRs. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. So I think, when I think about it from a development program, so, you're in this role, I think you do, after listening to some of those statistics on the research that you did, I think you have to be prepared to be in this role for 18 to 24 months minimum.
Yeah.
And the way that I would look at it is, I'm going to get the first 12 months, I would say the first 11 to 12 months, your main focus is learning how to do the job and consistently delivering on your target.
Yeah.
That is all you need to do, right? And just be a good person and meet people in the business. Be a good person, meet people in the business, but my goodness, just learn and hone your craft.
Yeah.
That's it. I would kind of say the forward-looking expectation is that you would like to progress into a role. Now, that role doesn't have to be sales either. And that's another thing that I think we need to talk about here too. It doesn't have to be AE. Actually, there can be many different avenues that you can go down. And I can give quite a few examples of SDRs that I've seen go into many different areas of the business. But commercially, this role is fabulous for anybody, right? It builds confidence. It builds so many different skills in being able to
booking tables, right? Like actually just picking up the phone, having a conversation, making reservations, and being able to negotiate, and things that you're going to go and buy in the shop. Like having a skill set like that is never going to do you any harm.
Not at all.
Never.
Not at all. Not at all. And so hopefully you step into that role naturally, as you kind of said. There's usually, because the role is exhausting, we have to keep morale up. And how do we keep morale up, and how do we keep people engaged? We do that through coaching, lots of training, lots of development, lots of, autonomy to try and test new things, and, play around with sequences and play around with messaging and partner up with marketing and all that kind of stuff. And then building great relationships with the account executives that you're kind of mapped to or partnered with. And again, growing your knowledge just around the buyers, the industries, all that kind of stuff. Like for me, that's where you should be setting your sights in that first 11 to 12 months. The problem is that after that time, once you start going, I'm consistently hitting my numbers. I am building great relationships in the organization. Now, this is, you own your growth. You own your career. Like nobody comes up to you and goes, hey, here's this great new role I think you should have. Like, seldom does that ever really happen. And actually, if it does happen, it's because you've put yourself in the view or in the lens or in a situation because you've almost like gone looking for it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But the problem is that often a lot of organizations, as you quite rightly said, do not have these pathways, we call them, to these next roles laid out very well. They just don't. And there's many different factors for that. It's not because they don't want to do it. They do want to do it. The headcount demand fluctuates. Like you can only go into that role if that role is available. But that shouldn't stop anybody from preparing someone for that role. No, but it does take time. It does take effort. We've built a couple of these. And yeah, it takes time. It takes effort. But they're great programs. But it really is like, how do you start getting exposure to the entire sales process? And how do you start to not just get exposure, then start to get experience, then start to get coaching, then start to feel like, actually, I'm quite empowered now to see a small deal from start to finish and kind of be involved and see it all through. And I think that's the progression.
I agree. And I think working with your AEs, you touched on it earlier, is so hit or miss depending on who you've got. You've got AEs that are like off, basically. Like I've been building my own pipe for years, and and actually they don't see the value in the BDR. I've seen that for years, and that's never going to change. That's just, you're going to always have one or two of them. They're not all like that. I think the majority of them over the years now are leaning in. My biggest issue with BDRs and working with AEs is a million different processes for one different person. So you work with one AE, and then therefore the BDR is essentially just almost order taking, right? Because every different AE's got a different thing, and they want to be valued by that AE, and they really care what they think. So they just do what each AE is asking. It's the most valuable learning, because we know that peer-to-peer learning is the most effective. And the reality is, a lot of the time these BDRs want to be those AEs. So it's even stickier, like they're hanging off every word that they go to. For me, it's the trust to actually run those small discoveries, put them in charge of writing up notes, like letting them run a demo, but running a very good dry run first. Like I think I actually haven't seen any dry runs done for a long time. Like I haven't seen a really good dry run. Probably not very privy to it. I'm sure it does happen, but those real fundamentals of like, actually role play with me of what this is going to work, like that type of thing from an AE to a BDR is like just invaluable. And especially as so much of the world is hybrid now, and I can't grab that soundbite like I used to be able to, or if I can, they're all on different floors. So we're not sitting in those groups of 2 to 4 anymore in any business that I've seen in the last 3, 4, 5 years. Everyone is all over the place. So I think there's a big challenge there. And the only way to conquer that is really getting that culture together of, it's part of the AE's responsibility to nurture this, because BDRs see enablement as enablement if it's that kind of culture. So they don't want to hear it from them. They're fed up with hearing their own manager rolled on about it. The stickiest person that they give a toss about is the AE and the AE managers. So they are probably the best sponges to grab that stuff from.
Absolutely. So I think like if a program doesn't exist, and I would say 8 times out of 10 it really doesn't, and there's no structured program, I think my advice for a BDR would be this. As I said, number 1, get in, learn your craft, hone your craft, learn the technology inside and out. every sales training that's put on by your manager, by enablement, by anybody, do it. Like, dedicate time to learning different tactics. Because the fact is that even as an AE, your number one strength will always be your ability to build pipeline. And whether you do that yourself or whether you do that in collaboration with marketing, SDR, that skill will never go away. And I've seen some amazing BDRs who've just basically, rather than taking the foot off the pedal once they get into an AE role, they've just kept that foot on that pedal of cold calling, building pipeline. So that number one craft and that number one skill that you will learn will always be the biggest one. After that, once you're proving yourself and you're consistently performing, and what do we mean by that? I mean consistently hitting your targets monthly, weekly, quarterly, whatever that is, maintenance, right? Yeah. Because now you're going to start to turn your attention to wanting to learn more. So let's say that you have set your eyes on becoming an account executive. If you've set your eyes on that, then yes, you're going to have to start dedicating some of your time to learning more. But what you can't do is take your eye off the ball in terms of your targets. Why? Because when you go for a role, there probably will be a stipulation that you can only apply for the role if you have consistently hit for the past 2 quarters at least, right? Yeah. That's reality. So you cannot take your eye off that ball. You have to maintenance of delivery of targets, right? Yep. Then, if you don't have a program, this is where you own your growth, and this is where you, in collaboration with your manager, start to write down, this month I am going to learn how to do these 1 or 2 things. Yeah. And please make it 1 or 2, make it achievable. You still got to hit your target. You can't be dedicating 6-8 hours a week to learning something new. No. That's the reality of it. Where would I start? First of all, I'd start with discovery, right? Because that's the next step. I would just follow the sales process. So how do you get exposure to discovery? If you have Gong, awesome, right? You can really easily and quickly pick the top 3 performing AEs in the business, and you can consistently watch their discovery calls, right? Put them on 1.25 speed, watch, listen to the questions that the customer asks, listen to the questions that the AE asks, start to write down the consistent questions that you're seeing are getting really great responses. Start to write down some of the customer case studies that they quote. Start to write down some of the industry statistics that they quote, some of the performance statistics that they quote. Start to write that down. Yeah. And look at any enablement. And again, this is all transferable. Any enablement that is given to AEs around discovery, there'll be loads of it. Go find it. There'll be discovery guides. Could be in the CRM, there could be a playbook on it. Find it, read it, learn it. That would be, I suppose, step 1 for me. Yeah. Then I'd ask them if you could join, rather than watching the replay, join a live discovery. Say to them, I'll turn my camera off. We can just tell the prospect that I'm training. I'll turn my camera off and I'll just sit and listen. And when you're sitting and listening, write down what you would have said differently, what you might have asked differently. Because then you're starting to look at it from a different lens. You've gone from learning to kind of coaching yourself, going, I might have asked that differently, or I might have recommended this. So you're starting to build your own discovery framework. Yeah. Learning the best from others, but also testing yourself. Then you've got to follow the process. So then you've got to pick a deal and say to the AE, I want to come along the entire process. Invite me to every meeting with the prospect. Invite me to every session that you're doing. If you're account planning on it, if you're whatever that is, just ask, please don't forget about me. Can you add me to this? Can you add me to that? Most of the time, AEs, invite them as well. You should be inviting them. We have to pay back to other people and help people in their careers. And that's what I'd be doing. The more exposure I'd be getting to every single stage. Well, how do you price and package? How do you quote? Yeah. How did you brief that solutions engineer? How did you really detail those requirements? How did you build the demo? Who's doing the demo, if there is a demo? Again, it all depends on the solution, how complex it is, your average deal size, your average sales cycle. But every piece of exposure, you will learn on the job. Absolutely, you will. And there's some things that you can't prepare for. You will just hit these roadblocks when you come to them. But there's so many repeated things in a deal that you can get exposure to them. But that's on you, and that's on you to push. You will have to push to ask people and to make sure that they invite you and that you can do these things. You lay it down in your development plan with your manager so that they can see your progress and what you're doing, and it is on paper and it's shown. So they're like the first thing, and that you should be doing over like 2, 3, 4 months.
Yeah.
Mastering, getting exposure to a full sales cycle, understanding how the CRM is working, where you're getting your information from along that process. And then this is the tricky bit, and a lot of companies are not set up to do this. So you're just going to have to see, you can do a split commission with an AE, right? So you could go, I want to run a deal with you and shoulder with you and run through it. And maybe we split the commission at the end because you're going to be doing some work around it and actually physically getting involved. Or if you can take on some smaller deals. So if you can actually take on some, the preference would be inbound leads. If you can actually take some marketing-led inbound warmer leads, smaller deal size, faster turnaround, and ask them if you can run the deal cycle, maybe with your manager alongside you, maybe with an AE alongside you, and do the split commission. You can also do it that way. That's just the only way that you really are going to start to get some exposure. It can be quite tricky, but it can be done. It absolutely can be done. And if you can run 1 to 3 to 6 over a period and get that exposure and close them, then that's the perfect scenario for me. That really is a perfect scenario for me. Anything else that you'd add?
I think you've just got to lay out, that almost needs to be laid out before you even start thinking about it. It's like, there's so many areas of businesses, and we've seen this all over the place, where there's either nothing, something, or bits.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I almost feel like it's what we built previously with Brett. And it was, what did we nail it as? It was the milestones, product knowledge, sales mastery, and industry knowledge. Because depending on what part of the business you're selling, or where you're selling, where in the globe you're selling, it's not just about product knowledge, it's about what's going on in the industry. And actually leveling yourself up to what's going on around you will also only increase your business acumen. So it's never going to do you any harm. So when you are having these conversations with prospects that are looking to buy, and circles of people are getting bigger. I heard the Gong stat last week was you need 8.5 people to win a deal now. Whereas if you want to lose a deal, just add 3.5. I don't know where the halves are coming from. But so
I don't know where the halves are, just small people. Sure, so get 8 really tall people and then 1 short person, and then you're going to win the deal.
I reckon we can ask Gong to verify that, but I reckon that's right. So therefore, like, these people are coming to you for advice, right? They're also not just going to you. We also know they're probably going to a number of other vendors. So if you also have a lens on the industry and can add value in that way, like, that's important, that you have a different perspective on what's happening outside of your bubble.
Absolutely.
I think that's really important. And then that also, so you were talking about it earlier, like, we've got all these BDRs who actually a lot of the time when they're coming into these roles, they're not even sure they want to be AEs. I would say I'd swipe guess 80-90% do, but like Lindsay didn't. And the business tried to put her in that BDR role. She went in even more of an entry level than BDR. And it was like, you do this, then you go to BDR, then you go to small business, and you go 1, 2, 3, then mid-market, etc. And they really tried to put her in that BDR role. You know, Lindsay, she's not BDR. Doesn't want to be BDR. That isn't her personality. So she really had to push back. And thankfully she did. And she got given a shot. Everyone's got to be given a shot. And she moved into partnerships.
Yeah.
So you can do it, but you do have to go against, I think, a lot of the time, especially as a BDR, you have to go against the status quo. So I think if you are a BDR in that position, you need to flag it super early before your leader just puts you on this pathway, because 80-90% of the rest of the people do want to go on that path, and it's okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you feel like your skills are starting to come out in other areas, so I've seen BDRs go into sales operations, marketing operations, because often marketing and sales development are really closely aligned. So I've seen SDRs go into like ops. I've seen SDRs go into customer success and be really, really successful. I've seen BDRs go into marketing. I've seen them successfully go into sales and wipe the floor with more tenured AEs on multiple occasions. I've also seen people go into like ops is obviously there's many different parts of ops, but one person in particular like ended up going into CRM management.
I remember that.
So there's so many different, and partnerships again, another great area to go into, to channel and partner, and HR. I've seen people go, and it's wouldn't be my choice, but I've seen people go into talent acquisition as well, and like get to know yourself, get to understand what you really enjoy, because there's so many different avenues, and then go and talk to people in those business units and go and say, I've really found it interesting. I'm, how can I get into this? What could I do? Like, could you bear me in mind for any future junior roles that come up in your area of the business? And it doesn't have to be sales. You're right. Keep your eyes wide open. Really listen to that internal navigation system and your gut around, actually, like, I really enjoy that. I'm going to go and explore that. Yeah, we should be nurturing talent, not just in one direction. So I think it's a really good call out.
Exactly.
And as I said, for those AEs that are listening as well, if you do have sales development reps, they are young. They do idolize you. They, the big eyes looking at you, and they love to be you. They really do idolize you. And I think just be a good person, give them your time. Even if you are a lone wolf and you prefer to do it on your own, help them in some form of, just don't be a dick.
Don't be a dickhead.
Nobody needs to be a dickhead in life, ever. And these are young, impressionable people who do not get the training opportunities that we got in our careers because, as you said, hybrid work environment. We're not sitting next to people. We're not learning through osmosis. We're not hearing people on the phone. We're not, being able to kind of be quickly pulled into a meeting that's going on that might be really good for you to sit in. And that is impacting younger people in their learning and the development. So I think just, don't be a dick. Be really nice. Give these people some time. Remember that people did that for you in your early days of your career, and give back. Just give back, because they are sponges.
Yeah, and you've got to take into consideration, like, as an AE, if you're speaking to people in any, like, in a disrespectful way, and we've all seen it, it happens, I get it, but actually, like, it's just not okay, because you have the potential to make or break their career. It could be and it traditionally is their first job. And if they have a bad experience with either a manager or a AE, and they go, actually, like, I'm not a hunter enough for this, or like, I'm not just doggy, and that's not what sales is about. For me, just how, like, don't do that to people. Like, remember, you could genuinely bugger up someone's career because they don't know anything else to go, oh, it's all right, I'll go somewhere else. It's not the same anywhere else. They don't know that. It's their first entry into these roles.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's not just the career, it's the confidence too. Like, you can really, I can think back to things that were said by previous managers that still haunt me today, so I never ever want to be thought of as that person. And so, it's not worth it. Well, LL, it's been a good chat.
It's been a great chat.
It's been a really, really great chat. So if anybody out there is a BDR, has any comments on this, obviously we'd love to hear your experiences. You can comment on the podcast, or you can send us a WhatsApp or an email message. If you are listening and you want help with some development and some training programs, etc., internally, specifically around this, you know where we are. This is what we do, and we're very good at it. If you're an AE and you're a little bit lost and you want some help and some coaching and some guidance, equally we are here to help as well. So we hope you've enjoyed it. And until next time,
see you later.
Ciao.